Heyo everybody, this is IcicleFerret, and I just wanted to give my 2 cents on the final update for Iceborne, and that is the addition of FATALIS. Now, I already know several people who have soloed this guy. I'm sure there are a million videos out there how to beat him already. I have not been able to beat him. I'm not ashamed to say that. This is a very intense fight, and he should be. He's the final boss that you fight in this game. I mean, I'll be honest, I was holding out some hope that Monster Hunter World would be a little different from their other Monster Hunter games, that they wouldn't essentially retire it. They just kind of release an expansion every couple of years. You just, pay an extra $40, get a new couple of maps, and they just kind of slowly drip feed new content. That's kind of what I was hoping for, that it would be something more like a perpetual game. Not the episodic installments like they have been, but they've decided not to go that way, and I understand why. They have a good thing going for them. There's a good reason that Monster Hunter has survived this long, and it's because they know when to start over. A lot of the fun in Monster Hunter is gathering all your materials, gathering all your armor, and being better, and you get to a point where there is no better. There's nothing to work towards because you have it all. And one way to keep your players coming back is to just reset to 0. The easiest way to reset to 0? Just release a new game. Everybody starts at 0. From what I understand, that's Capcom's strategy for this series. It's working fine, and I've got no complaints for it. Sorry, please excuse my cat. But, I was just really hoping that Iceborne and Monster Hunter World would just be this more perpetual experience. They'd add different monsters, they'd add different tempereds, and things like that just to keep it fresh. But I repeat myself, can you tell I don't script these things sometimes? Yeah. I really do like the way that they framed this game. It's bittersweet that we won't be getting any more updates, or major updates. They might do small ones, who knows. But it is bittersweet that we won't be seeing any more monsters, that we won't get any more expansion packs for this game. But they really did close it out in a very appropriate way. They used a technique called circular storytelling, where the ending either is in the same place as the beginning or it mirrors the beginning. And in the beginning, you start out, you're on this ship, you're traveling to the new world, and you meet the excitable A-lister. And in the end, you're on the ship, going back to the old world, and you're chatting with the excitable A-lister. And it just brings everything to a nice circular close. It just brings everything, I don't even know the right term for it. It's a circular story. It ends where it begins, but at the same time, the ending is only the beginning. It was a really nice touch by the writers. I mean, it's Monster Hunter. It's not a game that's known for its wonderful story and its wonderful writing, but that ending was a really nice touch. As for the fight itself, it really was a callback to the old games, even Alatreon as well. Alatreon and FATALIS, I feel, are fights more for the long-term fan, not someone like me who started with Monster Hunter World. Granted, I followed the Monster Hunter series loosely, just through other people's playthrough, but I never got to get my hands dirty. I never owned the right consoles to actually be able to play Monster Hunter. And that changed with World because it came out on the PC, which I didn't need to buy extra hardware for. I didn't need to make extra space in my house for it. I was able to finally enjoy Monster Hunter. And I'm very thankful that I was able to do that. I've made some friends. We had great times. Just really thankful that I was able to share this experience with everybody. As for the final fight with FATALIS itself, as I said, I've not been able to beat him, so I unfortunately don't have any footage of me being victorious against this guy, but there's plenty of videos on YouTube if you're curious about that fight, you can check them out. Even in the short little time that I've had with FATALIS, even though he's curb stomped me, even though he has completely mopped the floor with me, I like his fight a lot better than Alatreon. Now, I know I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for saying this, but I still don't feel like Alatreon was a well-designed fight. FATALIS, though, I think FATALIS is a well-designed fight. And even though Alatreon and FATALIS have a lot of similarities, FATALIS does not leave me with the sense of impossibility the way Alatreon does. I've read some articles, I watched a lot of videos about the secret brilliance behind Alatreon, and I'll be honest, I don't believe a word of it. I think Alatreon was rushed. I think they tried something new. They tried to really make this elemental thing important that kind of fell by the wayside, so they're like, alright, let's make this more important. And they shoehorned it in there in a way that was completely anathema to everything that we had learned about Monster Hunter World. Because Monster Hunter is about playing your way. You know, there are 14 different weapons, there are many different playstyles, there's hundreds of different decorations. You can really customize the way you play. And Alatreon took all of that away. There was one way to play. There's one way to beat him, and if you aren't good at that one method, you are out in the cold. And it's just not in the spirit of Monster Hunter that I felt. That I had been playing all the way up through here, and I just hit Alatreon, and it was like playing a completely different game. I mean, there are several weapons that don't even deal elemental, or elemental isn't their primary importance, like greatsword, like gunlance. If you main one of those weapons, if you completely focus on one of those because you only have 2 hours to play a night and you don't have hundreds of hours of many different weapons to choose from, you just can't beat Alatreon. That's it. And Alatreon's elemental weaknesses, they fluctuate throughout the fight, and they're meant to make people really coordinate their loadouts. But I have not known anyone who prefers fighting Alatreon in a full group of 4. Everyone I know prefers to fight him either solo or in a group of 2. That to me just further reinforces the fact that Alatreon was not designed to what they had in mind. You know, they wanted him to be a siege monster. They wanted him to require players to work together. But he was not easy to fight together. In fact, he was even harder if you tried to play it together. One of the primary methods that people use to fight Alatreon is solo and just brute forcing him down. They don't even worry about the elemental. They just survive until the Eschaton Judgment. Eschaton Judgment wipes them out. You know, their feline food insurance kicks in and they just jump right back in. Like, that's a legit strategy to beat Alatreon, and it's completely not the way Capcom had in mind for fighting Alatreon. I mean, I guess you can say, oh, well, that's just one way to play it with one of the weapons that you know, maybe you're a greatsword main or something, which a couple of, you know, somebody I know is. But I digress. Like, Safi Jiva was a well-designed fight. Safi Jiva is easier with 4 people. Especially, you can have one person focusing on the wings, one person focusing on the head, 2 people on the tail. You'll get those cuts super easy. And another thing about the Alatreon fight is I know they were trying to harken back to his original appearance. I completely get it. I am also not happy with it because Monster Hunter World has a very rich and vibrant world. It has environmental traps. It has other monsters that things can turf war with, nitro toads, paralysis toads, like all of that. The Alatreon fight took all of that away. Like, you couldn't even use the Clutch Claw wall bang attack, except if you were in some very specific locations. The Safi Jiva fight, the Shara Isvalda fight, the Kushala Daora fights, those all have environment to help you. They have boulders you can drop on them. They have slides you can slide down, especially if you're a hammer main, to get that slide in. And Alatreon didn't. And some people, you know, I want to acknowledge this, some people really like the fact that Alatreon was just a duel between you and a dragon. Some people really like that. But again, I feel it was just against everything that Monster Hunter World has been up until now. The Fatalis fight actually reclaims some of what they did away with in the Alatreon fight. There's no longer this hyper focus on element. Literally any weapon works well against him. They also added the environmental aspect of it, which again, this kind of goes back to they're harkening back to the original appearance of him, where you had the siege weaponry, you had the cannons, you had the binders, you know, and things along that line, which is great. And I'm really glad that they were able to port those things over to Monster Hunter World and make them even better. And the fight itself, I think, is better for it. really, if you think about it, if there's some world-ending horror, you're not gonna go in there with just your skivvies on and a sharp weapon. Like, you want cannons, you want dragonators, you want anything that you can throw at this monster, right? So the Fatalis fight makes a whole lot more sense. And having these environmental pieces, like even the little pillars that block his fire at breath attack. The Alatreon fight could have benefited from something along that line. The Fatalis fight, though, has it. And I feel that this fight is a lot more fair because of it. I look forward to the day when I can actually legitimately take him on, because I'm not going to be cheated out of a victory because of some, DPS check that I didn't make. It's going to be tough, and I'm looking forward to it. I don't feel that it's a cheap mechanic the way that I felt like it with Alatreon. Now, yeah, I know people are probably already telling me, oh, just get good, putting it in the comments here, but just to put things into perspective, how frustrating I found Alatreon, I literally almost uninstalled the game. This video was going to be a farewell video to Monster Hunter World. I was almost done with this game because of the way they handled Alatreon. Again, I know what they were going for. They really wanted to capture the nostalgia factor from, what was it, the Monster Hunter, I don't even know what number Monster Hunter Alatreon appeared in. But they really wanted that nostalgia factor. And I think they just completely missed what made World so great in trying to capture that nostalgia factor. With Fatalis, it's hard to say they listened to the community and learned from the mistakes, because odds are Fatalis and Alatreon were being worked on in parallel. But maybe it's just the fight itself. Maybe the Fatalis fight was a better fit for World than Alatreon. Maybe they could have considered, instead of Alatreon, they could have added, what's the guy that starts with the G? I call him Gargamel, but his name's not Gargamel. It'll come to me. Maybe they could have added, a different dragon, and that fight would have worked better. I don't know, but I am so glad that Fatalis is the final the dragon. So, because of that, I'm gonna be around a little bit longer. I'm still a terrible hunter, but this is still a lot of fun for me. You guys can expect some more videos on Monster Hunter in the future. But I think I've rambled on long enough for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. It means a whole lot to me. Your time is precious, and the fact that you choose to spend your time with me means so much to me. Stay frosty, my friends, and I will see you next time.